If you struggle with nutrition, you're not going to want to miss this episode. I'm going to talk about symptoms and struggles that you don't think come from nutrition, but do. What is and isn't normal when it comes to how your food should make you feel, and the 3 steps that finally made nutrition easy for me and will for you too. Let's get to it. What's up, sister? Welcome back to the Period Whisperer podcast, the show helping perimenopause and menopause women de-stress your body and decode what it's saying to you so you can own your own health, energy, and weight loss again. If you're new, I'm so happy you're here. I'm Bria. I'm your host, a recovering people pleaser and hustle addict turned functional and holistic hormone specialist. Let's lean in and learn what your body is saying to you. Well, hey there, sister. How are you feeling in your body today? Are you having cravings? Have you found that you've been hitting a wall in the afternoon? Are you even hungry in the morning, or are you finding yourself hungry at night? Are you feeling like hyped up and a little bit wild after you eat, or sluggish and like you desperately need a nap? All of these things are messages from our body. And today I was reminded after talking to a client who said to me, I finally am just full and satisfied between each of my meals. Like I actually feel like I have energy to start working out again. And it was such a powerful reminder of how our nutrition matters so much. And for me, this was something that I struggled with for so long, I used to have so many cravings. I found myself not recovering from my workouts. Like for years, I really self-identified with my workouts. They were a huge part of my life, no matter what, no matter where I was in the world, whether I was traveling or on vacation, I was getting up and I was getting in a 45-minute at least intense workout in so that I could calm my mind and feel like I did my part. I wasn't, sleeping well. I was having digestive issues, period issues, like PMS. All of these things were starting, especially after 35. For me, a lot of this started around 37. And I think it's important to bring that up because I hadn't changed much. That's why I really shifted into hormone health when I started this transition into perimenopause, because we can be doing these things that seem to be working for us. And when a major transition in life like perimenopause happens, I feel like that's when the rubber meets the road, because inside of us transition is happening, right? We're all really familiar with how outside of us, when we make a transition, like things get a bit rickety in our life, right? Like when you're moving houses or you're moving jobs or you're having a baby, or, something major is changing. We're aware of the fact that we have to let go of some other things, but we haven't really been taught that this transition in perimenopause really brings out what isn't serving us. And youth is very forgiving. Let's not forget that. So I know for me, I had to share, like, there are a lot of symptoms that, and struggles that you don't think are coming from nutrition. And I think cravings are a really big one of them. Like cravings, energy, libido, all of these things center around, our metabolism. And our metabolism is really an energy supply and demand piece. So, if we're not meeting the energetic demands of the body with enough supply, then the body is designed to survive. So it will reach out for what it needs in order to get that. It will speak to you through these messages. And God, I have this story about, I call it my M&M nightmare because I have a very clear memory. And I shared this story once with a friend, and she was shocked because I thought I'd had my nutrition figured out. And I found myself, besides the fact that every day I found myself, white knuckling myself, like like trying to keep myself from landing in the pantry and like, having a little handful of chocolate chips and then going back and having another handful of chocolate chips because I was desperate for sugar. I was having sugar cravings, which is your body's like demand for more energy, right? It's smart. Your brain knows that that's the fastest way to get energy. So we have these massive cravings. But when I was really in it, I thought, for movie night with the kids, it'd be a great idea to buy all of the M&M flavors. And you really can't buy the individual packs anymore. They're all family size, or at least I decided that would be a good idea. I bought a family size pack of all the flavors. So like peanut butter, pretzel, caramel, like I don't even remember what else there was. I had to be at least 5 flavors in there. Not the plain ones. I think they're boring. But I bought them all, put them in a Tupperware container, and, we all had sort of dished some out for the movie night. And then, so you can imagine the Tupperware container was pretty big. I had 5 or 6 family-sized packs of M&Ms, and I put them in a Tupperware container. And I proceeded to eat the rest of that entire container all by myself over like a 3 or 4 day period that week because my nutrition was so off. That's what it came down to. I was struggling so much with that piece. And it's such a huge indicator, these cravings. And you can also tell if you're struggling with cravings when, if you take a break from alcohol, if you're someone who's like, well, I don't struggle with sweet stuff. And then you take a break from alcohol and then all of a sudden you start really craving sugar because there is a lot of sugar in alcohol, no matter what one you take. And we always have to remember, that all carbohydrates, especially all simple carbohydrates, really are turned into sugar in our bodies. They're all just different forms of sugar. So if you're cutting back in one area and having major cravings, we know our nutrition is a bit wonky. I would always have these massive energy drops in the afternoon. And for me, I would just try to work out harder. That was my solution. I guess I'm just not doing enough. I must do more. And I hear this from my clients as well. I hear them talk about how they're pushing themselves, to avoid cravings or through cravings, how they're barely eating or they're doing, calorie restriction and it's not working, how they're desperate for their cheat day, or when they hit their cheat day, they're like overdoing it, and ultimately, if we're feeling like it's so hard to not eat these things that we know aren't really ideal for us, we know we have holes in our nutrition. And it was always really frustrating for me, especially being a fitness and nutrition coach. I couldn't figure out why I would hear people talking about craving nutritious foods, right? Like, have you ever heard someone be like, oh, I'm just craving, like, I don't know, a Buddha bowl or something, some amazing fish or this incredible salad. And I was like, I don't crave nutritious food. Like, I don't know what that's about. Or I would see people, on social media or even in my practice, like with my colleagues, talking about, going keto and like all this high fat and high purine protein they were eating, and how they felt so great. But whenever I tried to do something like that, I just felt sick to my stomach. Or I had clients who were going vegan and they just didn't look well. And yet I knew many, many people who were thriving off of a vegan diet. And all of this really went into nutrition being super frustrating for me. And I know that I'm not the only one, right? If you think about nutrition as really our fuel for our body, right? Like it's the tools that our body picks up. It's such an important part, like of creating that supply, right? We get energy supply from food, we get it from sleep, and we get it from, doing new things or experiences in this world. So, but I would say nutrition is one of the biggest pieces of that puzzle. And so we really can't be asking more of our body, or really can't function optimally in our life if nutrition is holding us back. And it was those things that really drove me to, put together this episode and also my 3-day nutrition challenge that's coming up. So I'll talk a bit more about that if you aren't a part of it. It's a free challenge where I'm going to teach you how to make nutrition easy in 3 steps. We're going to cover a little bit about it today. So, I just think it's really important to understand that things like cravings, irritability, lack of energy, and even further than that, like bloating, digestive issues, sleep problems, period problems, these things, they're not normal. They're not like massive PMS symptoms, feeling awful in perimenopause. These are not normal. Not being able to release weight, especially if you're working out, are not normal. They're key indicators of needing better nutritional support. And even in the situation where you do need pharmaceutical support. So for example, in perimenopause and menopause, if you do get to a point where your body just is not capable of producing enough of the hormone for your well-being, and we need to look at HRT or something like that, or bioidenticals, it doesn't change the fact that we have to do this underlying work in our nutrition. And I avoided this, sister, for so long. I really tried very, very hard. But, like anything, I always say this, it's like that lion hunt. You can go over it, under it, around it, but you really just need to go through it. Every other way is going to take a really long time. So you can't avoid the poor nutrition piece. And I think a lot of us know that, but I don't think what I didn't understand is, why there's so many different ways of eating out there, and why some work so well for some people and some work, don't, and why I was still feeling this way no matter how hard I tried and worked on it. And so it was a real sore point for me. It was really frustrating, to be constantly consumed by what am I eating, when am I eating, how much am I eating, what I just ate, and how it's, like how I felt mentally about it. So when I learned more about nutrition and our hormones, when I started to do that research and that testing on myself and then on my clients, when I started to understand more specifically our metabolic genetic code when it comes to nutrition, this is when things really shifted for me. And I was able to really reframe this nutrition piece. And I want to encourage you today to imagine your nutrition for your body kind of like building your dream home, right? The very first step is that you start with the foundation when it's actually being built, right? Like obviously there's a plan and everything, but once you have your plan, you know what you're doing. We start with the foundation and we build a solid foundation for that home to be built on. Because without a strong foundation, then everything starts to kind of topple around. And then, of course, we decide the type and quality of the structure and finishings of the home. And finally, we get it inspected, right? And we tweak it for maintenance and our goals, and we change it. We paint it different colors as we change, and we update it and little things like that. But you can't avoid these kind of 3 different sections. And so I wanted to break that down for you today to try to make this really simple. These are the 3 steps that made my nutrition easy, finally, in perimenopause after spending like 37 years feeling frustrated by it or confused by it or overwhelmed by it. Because it kind of feels like you're drinking from a fire hose. Like you go on Instagram and you are just being told all these different sorts of things. And the truth is that it comes down to you and your unique genetic makeup and your body and your body's composition and your body's energy and your life's energy demands. So it's not really possible to say, eat this way, it's going to be perfect for you. We need to follow these 3 steps. And that's what I want to break down for you today. So step 1, I like to call the kindergarten basics. And this is where that energy supply and demand really comes in. We want to make it easy on yourself to make these changes by starting with focusing solely on our nutrition and looking at our energy supply and demand, right? If our energy demand is huge, 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 then our energy supply needs to be big to actually get there. And if it's uneven, then we start to see issues in our metabolism and start to see issues in our body. And the safety precaution is for our body to actually hold on weight, right? This is why we can, and I talked to many, many of you, and I was there. This is why you can be working out and like burning hundreds of calories in your workout and eating less than what you're burning in a day and gain weight, because the body has that safety mechanism, right? So our hormones, as well as our our transition and perimenopause are not the top priority in terms of, or what I should say is maybe our hormones and our fat burning are not the top priority, right? Survival and doing what the body has to do really are the top priority here. So number one, we need to begin with kindergarten basics, which is your energy supply and demand. And you want to make it easy on yourself by cutting down on your demand. Because remember, you cannot avoid quality nutrition. Nutrition is the tools our body uses to function. So yes, it's fuel, but the quality of that fuel is really, really important. You need it to support you and do the job that you want it to do. So the quality really matters. And you can think about this in, if you were to pick up a really good quality tool, to like hammer, we'll call it, or screwdriver. Oh, I've had some crummy screwdrivers in my day. So if you get a really good quality screwdriver or tape measure, you notice the difference when you use those things in your life, or even a darn pair of scissors or a good knife, right? Like these things, these tools we use, there's a huge difference between a really good quality one and, a cheapy one that you buy. They don't last as long, they don't do the job as well. And the same goes for the nutrition in our body. So we got to figure this piece out. And I always think like within these kindergarten basics, when we're cutting back on our energy demand, those things can look like saying no to some things for sure. And they absolutely mean cutting back on things like intense workouts until we can get our nutrition sorted. Because remember, intense workouts are designed for people who have intentional eating. We need to support that in that area. So we want to cut that piece back. And for me, I had to cut back on my intense workouts for 4 months in order for me to get my nutrition sorted so that my hormones could rebalance, so that I could suddenly release weight. And the beautiful thing was that I was able to release weight without these intense workouts. And I was able to add fitness back in for the goals that I had once I had my nutrition sorted. So here are some real tips. When you pull back on the demand, your energy demand, so all the things that are taking your energy in your life that you do have control over, right? So making sure we're getting quality sleep, cutting back and just walking or doing yoga instead of an intense workout, then we create a greater reserve, in our body. We don't have such an energetic demand. And then we want to look at creating a really consistent supply so that our energy supply is not sucking on the demand. And what that looks like is getting in the habit of eating 3 times a day, sometimes 4, to support your blood sugar regulation and your circadian rhythm for energetic demand. So we want to make sure that we are waking up and that we're eating within 2 hours of waking, and that we're eating our lunch 4 to 5 hours after that, our dinner 4 to 5 hours after that. And if you can't make that happen, then that's when you sneak in a little snack in there to kind of tie you over for the next one. But we want to create consistent nutrition so our body knows when it's getting its food. And that way it's not adding another layer of stress. If the body is trying to make this perimenopause transition and meet the energetic demands of your life, and it doesn't have enough supply, or it doesn't know when that supply is coming in, then it starts to break down. And that's when we start to run into more issues. And it's another added stress or another energetic demand on the body. So we want to make sure we have consistent eating. This is all part of building that foundation, right? We want to make sure we're getting micronutrients in at each of our meals. So vitamins, minerals, fiber, those all come in the form of vegetables and fruits, right? So every meal should have those, and a base level of protein at every single meal. So I'd say a base level of protein is minimum 20 grams of protein at each meal. And then, of course, letting go of the things that stress your body out, right? So there are foods that we eat them, we have digestive issues or we have a reaction, then we know that is a stressor. There's foods that are hidden stressors, but if we know when we eat something it bothers us, we know it needs to go, because that's just adding, really it's creating a greater energetic demand, and it's not supplying anything for us. It's actually making it harder for us. So we start with building this foundation in our kindergarten basics. That's step 1. Once we've done that piece, then we get to shift into the area that just really blew my mind when I got deeper into nutrition for hormones and metabolic health. And that's metabolic typing. Now, I did an entire episode on this just a few episodes ago, so you can go check that one out. But Our metabolic typing, you want to think about your body like an engine, right? And our individual cells in our body, that's what breaks down our food. Each one of us has a genetic code that breaks it down at a certain rate. And if you break that down really, really fast, then you need what we call slower burning foods in order to feel happy and well and satisfied and without cravings and like have a good sense of well being in between your meals. If you are burning this really fast and you're eating fast burning fuel, then you're going to find yourself hungry really quickly afterwards, or not feeling well, or not having the energy to get through the day. Likewise, if you are a slow burner, if your metabolic type is the slow burner and you're eating slow burning fuel, it's going to be hard for you to get through the day at all, right? You're going to feel kind of sluggish the entire time. So we want to know our metabolic type, and you want to look at this like the same way we see in the world how there's cultures of people that like entire cultures of people that live off of a much higher carbohydrate diet, and there's cultures of people that live off of, or especially in our ancestry, that live off of a much higher fat and protein rich protein diet. And that history has come with us in our epigenetics. So if we know our metabolic type, our genetic metabolic type, and we start to eat for that metabolic type, then we're able to not be consumed by food in between our meals. We're able to have consistent energy. And remember, with consistent energy comes, things like the ability to work out again, comes more patience, comes better mood, comes better libido, which are all things we start to complain about, comes better sleep. When our body and our blood sugar is stabilized because we're eating right for our metabolic type, then we're not constantly thinking about food in between meals, or running low on energy because we're so hungry we didn't eat enough for us, even though we are feeling full. So understanding your metabolic type, and there's some simple testing that you can do for that. I talked about it in that episode, but this is the step that really answers the questions we have around these things we see online, like, should I eat organ meats? I mean, as a vegetarian, I wasn't super keen on needing to eat organ meats in order for my optimal health and vitality. Fortunately, because of my metabolic type, I don't need to. But this is what answers the question of, like, should I be eating dairy, or can I be vegan? Is this too much protein, right? We hear a lot of talk out in the world around that you can eat too much protein and it is going to impact your body in these different ways. And really, only you can answer these questions. I've had many clients go through this now, and it's been amazing to me. I had one client say, like, I've realized that when I eat 50 grams of protein at breakfast, I feel damn good, like all the way through. And then I can have a normal lunch and I feel good all darn day. And it really makes a difference when you start to understand that, because your food, again, in between your meals, this is how you know you're eating right for your type. When you've solidified that foundation, you're moving into this structure of, like, okay, now I need to decide on the actual finishings and the structure of my house. Now I live in Arizona, so you're here and you've got a lot of like stucco and that adobe style outside, because that's what holds up to the weather here. You go to another part of the world and you're going to see lots of wooden clapboard siding. You just wouldn't see that here in Arizona. And that's because of the area that I live in. And our body is no different. So when you get to this next step of building your dream home with your nutrition, you really want to think about, okay, what is my genetic metabolic type, and how am I choosing the actual building blocks, the types of food, the types of protein, the types of vegetables, the amount of carbohydrates for my specific body. And this is what makes things get really, really easy. When you can easily make changes to your nutrition, or you can easily function in your life when you're feeling good and satisfied, and your energy is good all day, and you're sleeping well. Like, think about all the things you can actually accomplish. If you're wanting to put on muscle, you actually have the energy to do that, and you have the building blocks to recover when you're eating for that metabolic type. So now that you've built, you have your foundation, you've like put your home up with the appropriate siding and the appropriate finishings that are good for you and your desire and where you live, then we get into the section of like home building where of course an inspector is going to come and check it out and make sure it's solid for you to actually live in, raise your family in, have a life in. And that's where we spend, this is step 3 for you. That's where we spend time just for 2 to 3 weeks on tracking not what you ate, how much you ate, but how what you ate made you feel. And this is an important piece because a lot of the trackers out there are telling you, they're balancing your macros for you and they're telling you your calories. And I think those things can be really helpful, but none of it matters if you eat that meal and you don't pay attention to, hey, this made me feel really good. Like I had good energy, good clean energy. I feel good today. I have patience. Hey, my libido's picking up. I'm full and satisfied for 4 to 5 hours. If we don't pay attention to what our body is saying, then we might not even recognize that, like, ooh, I ate that and I was hungry 2 hours later, or I ate that and I was like bloated afterwards, or I was frustrated afterwards. So we need to spend 1, 2, 3 weeks at most just tracking so that you know how your food makes your body feel. And that does require time and effort, but it's an important and critical part. And you think about home building, you have to have it inspected when it's done. Even if you're buying a home, you need to have it inspected. We need to make sure that everything is how it's supposed to be and pay attention. The answer, this really answers the question of like, how much should I eat? Then when you want to start working out and again changing your body composition or going after a goal that is increasing your energetic demand again, it becomes really simple to adjust accordingly, right? If all of a sudden you decide, okay, well now I'm feeling really good, my food's making me feel really good, I'm pooping every day, I'm sleeping well at night, my hormones aren't seeming wiggity, then we can easily start saying like, hey, I'm going to go after this goal now. And when you start to add that energetic demand in, so in the example of fitness, when you start lifting weights again, for example, then you can notice if you need to add in more food, and the right tools that your body needs to function. And you can do this not at the cost of your body, right? It breaks my heart when I think of how many years I worked out and how hard I worked out and didn't get any results except further exhaustion. And I have many of you that come to me on our discovery calls for coaching. And that's what I'm hearing from you is I'm like, well, how many hours a week are you working out? And what are you eating? And you're not getting results? Then that's a huge indicator that what we're eating is not supporting, that our supply is not supporting our demand. So when we have those pieces, when you have your foundation and you have your house built and it's been inspected, then we can actually really easily shift into that pocket of like, okay, now I know the tools, I know when I'm eating, I know how much I should be eating right now for this energetic demand. Let's increase the demand if that's what I want to do. Or you can quite happily live in that maintenance area. Because that's when things break down, right? Is when we don't have the right tools, when our house wasn't built on the right foundation, when it's not built for the lifestyle that we've created or the area that we live in, that's when things start to break down on the inside of our body. All right, sisters. So you've heard a lot from me today, but what's most important is that you understand that when you do this work, nutrition becomes easy. You no longer have to ask anyone else what they're eating, how they're eating, why they're eating, and why it makes them feel that way, unless it's for funsies for you, right? You don't feel overwhelmed when you get bombarded by 100 Instagram, stories around you should try this and you should eat that. For you, for your body, how it should feel. So if you want to learn more about this, if you want to understand this is why I created the Make Nutrition Easy in Perimenopause free 3-day challenge. You can swipe up, click the link in the show notes below to join. We start April 29th. And what I'm going to do is break these areas down further and make it super simple and actually give you actionable steps in each day so that you can start making it simple for yourself. So make sure you come and check it out. And just remember, nutrition is such a massive part of what we do, and you really can't avoid it. Trust me, I tried for so many years. So if you're like me and you're frustrated with your time being consumed by nutrition, or you're putting in the effort and you're not getting results, or you're in the pantry every afternoon with the M&Ms or the chocolate chips or whatever it is for you, then come and join this challenge because it is everything you need to start making nutrition easy for you. All right, sisters, that's it for me for today. I'm looking forward to catching you in the next episode. Go out, be more in your life and not just less on a scale, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for joining me on the Period Whisperer podcast. If you liked this episode, take 30 seconds right now to write a review on iTunes and then reach out to me directly on Instagram at Bria_period_whisperer and message me there with a screenshot of your review. As a thank you, I will give you a customized free hormone audit to get you on your way to the best health of your life in midlife.